I sort of look at Mass TLC from two perspectives. One, as a community member, right? So part of the tech ecosystem, sort of operating from, across a variety of companies over the course of my career. And then two, as a company executive, right? And I think that tends to reflect the way that people think about the organization, at least at your level in the room.
I'm going to turn the slide off.
So I can move around and not
Yeah, just trying to do a little.
So on the industry side, I've known Tom for a long time, and I've been active as an individual member and a contributor for Mass TLC for a number of years. And a few years back, I sort of reached this point of perspective in that I am part of the technology ecosystem in this region. My career is going to span a number of different companies, but I'm going to rely on people like you creating and running organizations, and I'm going to rely on incoming young people to fill the ranks of the organization to grow up, and they're going to spin off and create other companies, and then those companies are going to create and spawn other companies. Like, that is what makes New England special, right? It's that continuity, and I think at this point in our careers, when you think about it at that level, it allows you to think sort of beyond the horizon. And I think Mass TLC has been an exceptional platform for that, because you get to leverage Tom and the organization that's there to execute some of these programs and events, and also the membership that comes together, because when you think about, like, how do you want to see the company or the community evolve, you can do a lot more when you can tap into thousands of people who are part of Mass TLC, the large execution staff that exists at Mass TLC to pull off some pretty significant events. With that perspective in mind, I felt that the early stage ecosystem around Boston was something that Mass TLC hadn't really tapped into in a big way historically. But yet that was such an important feeder for attracting and retaining high-tech talent coming out of the university scene and young employees that we all need to make sure are part of our organizations years from now. And at the time, I had an office in Palo Alto, and I could see people moving out of Boston. When I was in Silicon Valley, they'd always be talking about the hot startup, and it was in New York or Austin. And I'm like, what about Boston? This is crazy. We have such a great pool of talent here. And I came to Tom with the idea for our Boston Tech Jam, which was basically a celebration to bring everybody, no matter what sector you were in, no matter what kind of personality or specialty you had. It was the one day a year when people from any corner of the technology ecosystem, whether you're a service provider, a technology, an engineer, a marketing person, would come together and sort of celebrate being part of this community, and we could make new connections and feel a greater sense of connection with the community. And Tom's like, you're crazy, but I love it, let's do it. And he was totally behind me. I could never have done that without Mass TLC, and they've been a partner ever since, and now it's become one of the signature events. We're shooting for 6,000 people this year on City Hall Plaza, and it really, I think, has morphed into a celebration of being part of this community. And I did it because I think building that kind of momentum is important for the region over the long haul. And I've got other ideas, and I'm hoping that people like you or people in your teams will have those kinds of ideas also. And Tom and the organization are so eager to find new opportunities to create service offerings, events. Maybe it's a one-time thing, maybe it becomes a yearly thing, but that kind of momentum, I think, ultimately puts Boston and the region on the map. And we need to do that for each other, right? And when you think about these big signature events, they're important because they've got a lot of notoriety around Boston, and they pull a lot of people in. And one of them in particular is very near and dear to my heart. But I think from an industry perspective, the peer groups are probably one of the least tapped into opportunities with Mass TLC. I think that as sort of a community leader gives me an opportunity to meet people like you, and then to kind of huddle with people like Lee in a meeting to talk about, like, how do you run product? How are you guys dealing with this issue? How do you deal with product launches in an agile world, or things like that maybe are not things that you're going to talk about or ready to talk about internally with your own staff, but you want to kind of bounce them off industry peers. Super valuable to be able to tap into that. And really leverage the expertise that exists in Mass TLC and sort of bringing those organizations together. We launched the CMO advisory group, or peer group. Coming out of that, we spawned the Demand Gen peer group, and there's like 10 or 15 others that should be formed. We just need somebody to bring the idea up. These guys will do the operational work. you bring the idea and represent the demand that exists in the industry, and that's how these things happen. Like, don't wait for a memo to come down from Tom and the Mass TLC staff. Bring the idea, and these guys are on it, which is, I think, what makes the organization the big tent in the region. So that really ends up putting Mass TLC as this platform for the region upon which you build and kind of stick on things that are important for you. And I bet if they're important for you, they're probably important for other organizations around town. And we all benefit for the, for the long haul. I mentioned two perspectives. That's sort of the, beyond the headlights regional perspective. The other is just as like a company exec. Like, I show up to work every day, I got to hire smart people, I have to retain them, I need to grow them, I need to make sure that they're learning and expanding their skill set. And from a company perspective, I have always looked at Mass TLC almost like an HR benefit, right? So we promote that to employees and say, listen, we're members of Mass TLC. You can either go to the event for, you go to the event for free. Now, we, as the sponsoring organization, get a discount for those members, but we send out the event notifications. Hey, you should go to this, it's a good networking, go to the peer group, go to an IoT seminar because we're thinking about building an IoT product, get yourself smart. But rather than getting on a plane, going out to another region, we got smart people here and there's good events. So just trying to keep, our organization plugged into the events as an employee benefit and think of it that way. Right? It is a way to get your team engaged and really feeling valued, and that you're going to sponsor and sort of put them at some of these local events. And they get to meet people in their roles and trade ideas the same way that we're trading ideas here. So that's the way I've thought about it. Industry perspective, sort of community member trying to make long-term investments, and also at the organization level. It's a good, easy benefit. You should do that. You should plug your people in.